My name is Clarissa Morgan. I'm 63 years old. And 3 weeks ago, I laid my husband of 38 years, Edward, to rest. We built this house side by side, raised our children within these walls, watched the seasons change through the kitchen window, shared late-night conversations in this living room, and planted roses in the backyard every spring. But on a quiet Tuesday morning, while the funeral flowers were still drooping in their vases, the phone calls started. "Mom, we need to talk about the house," my son Brian said, skipping any small talk. His voice was firm and familiar, the same tone he used when he asked for money in college. Only this time, he wasn't asking. He was telling. I stood in my kitchen as the coffee cooled in my mug, the one that reads World's Best Grandma, a gift from my granddaughter, Catherine. Yet nothing felt familiar anymore. Not the mug, not the sound of my own voice, not even my reflection in the hallway mirror. And when I finally understood what Brian and my daughter Danielle were planning behind my back, when it became clear that their kindness was strategy, not love, something inside me cracked. Or maybe, for the first time, something finally woke up. This isn't a story about revenge. It's about taking back your voice when everyone expects you to stay quiet. About honoring the life you built, even when your own children no longer respect it. It's about what happened when my children tried to take my home, and what I chose to do instead. The next morning, Brian called again. "Mom," he said, "Danielle and I had dinner last night. We talked about your situation. It's not sustainable. That house is too big for you. It's time to think about next steps." I pressed the phone to my ear and looked out the kitchen window, where the herb garden Edward and I once cared for had grown wild. I hadn't touched it since the funeral. "There's no mortgage," I said evenly. There was a long pause. Then came that sharp, dismissive laugh, the same one his father once used, though Edward's had always carried warmth. Brian's held none. "Mom, you don't need to pretend. Dad's pension can't cover all your medications. We're worried." They weren't worried. They were circling. He shifted into a pitch, like he was closing a deal. He and his wife wanted to buy a new place, a colonial on Maple Street. Danielle was struggling with Catherine's college fund. "If we sold your house," he said, "it would be a win-win. A win-win for them." "And where would I go?" I asked. "That's the best part," he said brightly. "Danielle has that finished basement. You'd have your own entrance, your own bathroom. It's cozy." He made it sound like an upgrade, not a demotion. "That basement floods every spring," I said quietly. "It's been fixed. And you'd have Catherine around when she's home from college. She could keep you company, maybe help with meals. You know how Danielle struggles with that." I didn't respond. I was remembering Thanksgiving last year, how I was seated downstairs alone while everyone else ate upstairs. I remembered how Danielle never called after the funeral. Not once. Brian kept going. "Lisa's cousin Gregory is a realtor. He has a cash buyer. Quick close. We could wrap this up in a month. Start fresh." He said it like he was doing me a favor, like erasing 3 decades of marriage and memories was just another box to check. "Mom, we're telling you this because we care." What he really meant was, "We want your house and we're not asking." That evening, my phone buzzed with a message from Danielle. "Mom, Brian told me about the house. I know it's hard, but it's for the best. Catherine is so excited to have Grandma living closer. Can't wait to talk details." Details, as if my grief came with a project timeline. I stared at the screen, reading her words again and again. Catherine was excited. The same granddaughter who hadn't called or messaged me in months, who used to spend summers baking cookies in my kitchen and planting tomatoes in the backyard, now silent since Christmas. I scrolled through our last messages. December 15th, a group text thanking everyone for holiday gifts. No personal note. No, "How are you, Grandma?" No message after the funeral. If Catherine was excited, she hadn't told me. And Danielle, the woman who couldn't return a phone call while I was burying my husband, now wanted me to believe she was being kind. Offering her basement like it was a gift, hoping I'd cook, help with laundry, support her through meal planning, tasks I once did when she was a child, now somehow folded into her vision of my future. This wasn't about care. It was about convenience. A neat solution that let her feel like a good daughter while placing me out of sight, but close enough to be useful. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table. Not a single casserole dish had been touched. Not one condolence card reopened. And for the first time since Edward's death, I said the words out loud. I am not a burden. I am not invisible. And I was done pretending otherwise. The next morning, I stepped into Edward's study. His scent still lingered in the air, a mix of old books and aftershave. The sun spilled long shadows across the desk we bought at an estate sale when Brian was still in high school. I opened the bottom drawer, the one Edward always joked was filled with boring paperwork. Beneath years of tax returns sat a navy blue folder, thick and heavier than I expected. Inside were bank statements, investment summaries, legal documents, and then, tucked among them, something I never anticipated. A deed to a house. Not in Ohio. Not even in a neighboring state. It was in Spain, in Marbella, a coastal town I'd only ever heard Edward mention once while flipping through a travel magazine. There were photographs, too. A whitewashed villa with blue shutters. A small terrace overlooking the sea. A garden lined with lemon trees. On the back of one photo, in Edward's handwriting, were the words, "A place where no one needs anything from us. Just peace." 6 months before his heart attack, he must have bought it. Then I found the envelope. It was sealed, my name written on the front in his familiar, careful handwriting. Inside was a letter dated exactly 30 days after his passing. My dearest Clarissa, if you're reading this, then the silence I try to spare you from has arrived. I know our children. I love them, but I know them. And I suspect they're already circling like vultures, convinced they know what's best for you. They don't. You are not fragile. You are not meant to be managed. Everything we saved, everything we built, it's yours. Not to protect. Not to defend. To live. Go to the house. See the world we dreamed of. Choose yourself. And when you sit on that terrace with the sea in front of you, know that I always believed in your strength. Love, Edward. I read it 3 times. When I finally looked up, I knew exactly what I had to do. 2 days later, I sat across from Connie West, Edward's longtime estate attorney. Her office smelled of leather and old paper. She wore no perfume, only quiet confidence, and a silver streak in her hair that reminded me strength doesn't always announce itself. "Miss Morgan," she said, unfolding the documents between us, "your husband was meticulous. He left nothing to chance." I nodded, Edward's letter still tucked in my purse like armor. "He created a revocable trust in your name," she continued. "All assets, this home, the investment accounts, the Spanish property, are yours alone. Your children were never named as beneficiaries. Only the life insurance policy goes to them." I let out a slow breath. He had known. He had seen what I refused to. Connie slid a second envelope across the desk. "He also opened a separate account last year. He deposited a portion of his pension into it each month. He called it your Independence Fund. There's $50,000 in it." My throat tightened. "He said it was for when Clarissa finally lives for herself," she added. I couldn't speak. "And the property in Spain?" I asked quietly. "Fully paid off. You have clear legal ownership. Edward even hired a local property manager to maintain it. The house is in excellent condition. You could move in tomorrow if you wanted." Move in. The words settled deep in my chest. For the first time in years, someone spoke about my future without managing it, without twisting it into a favor or a sacrifice. It wasn't about what I could give. It was about where I could go. Connie leaned forward, her voice softer. "Would you like me to draw up documents reaffirming your ownership?" I met her eyes without hesitation. "Yes," I said. "It's time." The moving truck arrived at 7 sharp, just as Brian's car pulled into the driveway. I watched from the upstairs window as he stepped out, still wearing the yellow business suit his wife Lisa reserved for serious meetings. He carried a thick manila folder, no doubt filled with sale contracts and closing papers. He didn't knock before the movers began loading boxes. I met him at the door wearing the red dress Edward always loved. My hair was freshly styled. No tears. No apologies. "Mom," he snapped. What is going on? Good morning, Brian, I said evenly. I'm having a few things moved. He brushed past me without waiting for an invitation, scanning the hallway. His eyes locked onto the labeled boxes stacked near the stairs. Those are mine, he said sharply. My childhood things. Why are you packing them? Because I assumed you'd want them, I replied. Memories matter. And I won't need them where I'm going. His forehead creased. You can't be serious. You haven't even signed the sale papers yet. Gregory's client expects an answer by noon. I didn't flinch. Brian, where exactly did you tell Gregory the money from this sale would go? He hesitated. What do you mean? I mean, did you and Danielle already divide it up after subtracting imaginary mortgage payments and imaginary maintenance costs? He didn't answer. I continued. You assumed I was struggling, but did you ever think to ask what your father's pension actually provides each month? Or how we managed our investments? Or whether I even wanted to leave the home and life I built? Mom, we were just trying to help. No, Brian, I said calmly. You were trying to manage me, like a spreadsheet, like a liability. He tried again. Look, I admit we moved too fast, but you don't have to move into Danielle's basement. We'll help you find a nice apartment, something manageable. I looked him square in the eye. Manageable for whom? Before he could answer, my phone rang.
Danielle.
I hit speaker. Mom, what is this insanity? There's a moving truck at my house and men trying to deliver that old piano I haven't touched in years. The one you begged for when you were 8? I asked, my voice steady. I thought you'd want it. You said memories are precious. I don't want the piano, she snapped. And Brian said you're not going through with the house sale. That's correct. Silence. But you can't afford. I can afford more than you ever gave me credit for, I said. Another pause. Her voice wavered. Mom, what's happening? I'm leaving, I said, softly but firmly, but not for your basement. Then, with quiet clarity, I added, I'm leaving because I finally remembered who I was before I became a convenience. 12 hours later, I was on a flight to Madrid. I sat by the window, Edward's favorite spot, and watched the Atlantic shimmer below like a promise waiting to be kept. I didn't sleep. I didn't read. I simply sat, letting silence wrap around me like a second skin. At customs, the officer asked, Purpose of visit? I smiled, ready to start over. Outside, a woman held a sign with my name, Pilar Rodriguez, the caretaker Edward had arranged years ago. She greeted me like an old friend, her hug warm and grounding. Your husband, she said, was proud of this house. He said, My Clarissa will make it come alive. As we drove through Marbella's winding streets, I took in the lemon trees, the blue sky, the distant sea. Every corner felt like a secret Edward had saved just for me. Then we arrived. Whitewashed walls, blue shutters, bougainvillea climbing the front gate, a terrace with Mediterranean views that made my knees weak. Pilar handed me the brass key. He left it for you, she said. This house is your reward for a life well lived. Inside, everything was simple, peaceful, clay-tiled floors, wooden shelves waiting for books, a kitchen flooded with sunlight through arched windows. It was nothing like the home I had left behind, and everything I didn't know I needed. Pilar showed me the pantry. Wine, bread, olive oil, cheese. Rest now, she said. Tomorrow we walk. That night, I stood on the terrace with a glass of wine, watching the last light fade over the sea. The waves crashed against the rocks in steady rhythm, like a heartbeat reminding me I was still here. For the first time in years, I felt not empty, but full. Not lonely, but free. I didn't miss my children. I missed the version of myself I had almost forgotten, and I had just found her again. 4 days passed in quiet peace. I didn't check emails. I didn't answer calls. I watered the garden with Pilar, tried my first Spanish lesson, and walked every morning to the local bakery, where the owner had already learned my name. Then, just as the sun was setting on the 4th day, my phone buzzed. For the first time since Christmas, Catherine's name appeared on the screen. I hesitated, then answered on the 4th ring. Grandma. Her voice cracked with emotion. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you. There was urgency, but also something else, shame. I just found out, she continued. Mom told me you'd been sending money for college. All this time, she never said it was from you. Why didn't you tell me? I leaned against the terrace railing, watching the last golden light slip behind the hills. Because I didn't need credit, Catherine. I just wanted to help. But you shouldn't have had to do it in silence. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I let them convince me you were fragile, that I shouldn't call too much. That space was better. But all this time, I wasn't giving space. I was abandoning you. Tears pricked my eyes, but my voice stayed even. You're here now. That's what matters. Then came the words that made me pause. Can I come see you? Spring breaks in 3 weeks. I was supposed to go to Cancun with friends, but I want to come to Spain. I want to see the house Grandpa chose for you. I want to know you. Really know you. Not the version Mom gave me. I let the silence stretch. Then I whispered, yes. Come. 3 weeks later, I stood at the arrivals gate in Malaga Airport. When Catherine walked through the terminal doors, I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished, filtered version I'd seen in holiday photos. The curled hair, designer tote, perfect smile. This was a young woman in worn jeans and a plain white t-shirt, hair in a messy bun, eyes searching until they landed on me. Grandma, she called, then ran. Her hug wasn't rehearsed or polite. It felt real, strong, like she'd been waiting years to mean it. You look amazing, she said, stepping back. Radiant. Did you cut your hair? Just a trim, I smiled. Pilar had insisted. During the drive to Marbella, Catherine pressed her face to the window like a child, pointing at every whitewashed village, every olive grove, every glimmer of sea between the hills. This is where Grandpa wanted to bring you, she said. I nodded. He had bought the house in secret, she added, saying it was for the time when no one needed anything from us anymore. When we pulled into the driveway, she went still. The bougainvillea, the lemon trees, the sea behind the terrace, she took it all in, then looked at me. He knew, didn't he? She whispered. He knew you'd need this place. That evening, we sat on the terrace, eating the meal Pilar had prepared to welcome her. The air was warm, the waves below steady. Tell me about your life here, she said. I want to know everything. For the first time in years, someone wasn't asking what I could give. They wanted to know who I was, and genuinely cared about the answer. The next morning, we wandered through the village together, buying fresh bread, learning names, laughing at my halting Spanish. Catherine asked about my writing, and I told her the truth. I had started a memoir, not the novel I once dreamed of, but something more honest. A story about how easy it is to lose yourself when love turns into duty, and how hard, but necessary, it is to reclaim your life. Later that week, she sat across from me at the beach, toes buried in the sand. Grandma, she said, I think I want to stay. Not just for spring break, maybe longer. I don't want to go back to pretending. I looked at her, my granddaughter, my friend, my unexpected mirror, and smiled. Then stay, I said. Let's figure out together. Because family is not built on guilt, inheritance, or forced obligation. It is built on presence, honesty, and love that asks for nothing, but gives everything. If you have ever felt erased, replaced, or unappreciated by the people you once put first, remember this. It is never too late to choose yourself. Never too late to begin again. And never too late to be seen.